Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and my guest today is Nancy Orland Weber. I am so excited about this interview. Nancy is the author of The Life of a Psychic Detective, who went from being a crime victim to solving crimes with detectives, which has been a sidebar to her medical, intuitive, and animal communication work. And her book is an outcome of her desire to help others bring their gifts to the light in a practical manner that serves them and the world. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Oh, thank you, Jack. So good. Wonderful to see you.
So glad to have you here. Mutual Admiration Society. So you have what is definitely a very interesting background, and there's so many things we can talk about. But let's start by talking about, how did you first learn, or how did you know that you were psychic? And then follow that up with how you got involved with working with detectives.
Sure. The word psychic did not occur to my mind until my early 30s. The idea that I knew things, secrets that people didn't want out, or people dying and when, or anything else that would come to me, occurred my whole life. I can remember in the crib seeing things I didn't understand and being told somehow what it was about, but I didn't label it. Not until I worked in the acute psych unit in the South Bronx in the old Lincoln Hospital, where I could see what a hallucination was and what was the obsession behind it. And I could talk to a catatonic nonverbal who would talk with me in minutes. And I started understanding something about it through psychology, psychiatry. I studied all of it my whole life. And then I left nursing, offered top post in psychiatry research in New York State, left it all behind, had no idea what I would do, had no money, and I just deep breathed. I was good at deep breathing. And within about a year, I had a full-time practice, still didn't know what to call it until somebody said, "There's a psychic fair we'd like you to join." I said, "There are people who do this?" So I had no clue. I gained fast. And within 5 years, I was in magazines and newspapers, but I never told anybody. I just did my work. Back in 1979, I moved to New Jersey and took karate and enrolled my 4-year-old who loved it in karate. And his teacher came to me at the end and said, "You ever work with the police?" My response was, "Why do you want to know?" I figured, I don't know if I'm getting in trouble or I will love it. I have no clue. And so she said, "Well, there was a rape murder." And the moment she said it, I had a vision in my head. And so I told her the vision, the description of somebody. And she said, "I need my superior officer to tell. Next week, karate, he's there." And I always think of Ernie in Sesame Street. He stands there and goes, "Psst." And I go, "Oh my God." He said, "Repeat it." I did. He said, "I need to talk to you tomorrow with my partner." They come into my office and they're sitting there and they said, "We have a problem with what you said." And I'm thinking, well, of course, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Why wouldn't you have a problem? And that wasn't their problem. And they said, "We have 2 people answering that description who are both suspects." And I looked at them and I went, "No, you don't." And I got up and I limped across the room. I even laugh now because I go, "Oh my God, how ridiculous." And I sit down and they look at me in shock and they said, "How did you know one had a limp?" Simple. I became him. I was so nutty. I didn't know where to go with any of it. Just blurted out. So they went back and told him they had an eyewitness. And that was the first confession we got out of a killer, with me being an eyewitness. It wasn't the last.
Wow. Amazing. So here you are, you're doing all this work and, for all kinds of things, working with animals and people and the police departments and so forth. And now you've decided, or you did decide already because the book exists. What made you decide to write this book?
The responses I got from my classes, my students, and from my clients over 47 years, that it was time that more people understood not so much what I do, but what's possible and potential within everybody. And not to be a psychic detective or psychic or medium or anything, but rather to be a soul on earth with roots deep in the earth and wings wide open and care for themselves and care for the earth. And I thought that that would be a way in to hook them by murder. What a lovely thought. And then to share with them exercise and activities they can all do themselves. And I've gotten a beautiful response from everyone who read it. They posty it, they form little mini groups, and they practice, because it's all about the depth within us for everybody. And I know you know that very well.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the expert on it.
So one of your intentions is to help people bring forward their gifts that maybe they're not aware of them because they haven't gone in and done that depth of work that you've done. And so you want to help them manifest their full potential. Is that correct?
That's very correct. I think a lot of people have manifested a lot, just like I know me, I'm still growing. I'm taking mentoring in other fields. And so I mentor people in my field. And I find that no matter how gifted we all are, somebody who is just like anything else, more objective about what I call them glitches. It's a nice soft word for me, what the glitches are and how to continue. So I just thought having it in a book would hasten it for people like myself who years ago, I couldn't afford going places, but I could afford a book.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole world of people who need to stay home or need to read, love reading and love working with themselves or in small groups. And I thought that was a nice way to do it.
What are a couple of the main ideas that you have in your book, besides your stories, which are fascinating about your own experience, how you discovered you had this gift, your gift, etc. And I remember just reading your book and just kept turning the pages and turning down what's next. I just kept, it was so fascinating to read. What are you sharing with the readers so they'll know that they want the book as much as I enjoyed it? What kind of, you talk about activities they can do and practice and so forth. Just give us a little hint of that.
Was one of the things I've heard from all the mentoring everywhere, you and everybody, sometimes we need baby steps. So throughout the book will be even just little baby steps. One of the officers I worked with coined a term about what I did in observation that has nothing to do with being a detective or a psychic, although he applied it. It was called soaking up the scene. And I thought, oh, right. People who actually don't judge what they're observing, but simply soak up what they're observing and understand it. So I point that out after that chapter. And then my favorite one for me, because I have a husband who loses everything, is how to find missing anything or people, pets. I have found people, I found pets, but mostly I find his stuff. So the practice is very simple to me because I believe that we are all electroactivity, and we can point our light in a direction and focus. So for me, threaded throughout is about how important it is to have intention, to have a heart filled with the intention, the passion, and the focus on something. Don't expect to be successful at anything we do, even just cleaning the dishes, if we don't have focus, intention, and we enjoy it. So turn on the music and play. I used to think Cinderella, my foot. I'm going to enjoy it and turn on the music and clean because I never liked cleaning.
It's interesting. I remember reading, a long time ago, reading a book about an artist, and he was being mentored by amazing artists. And he gave everyone a fish. He said, go draw the fish. And they brought in their fish drawings. He said, now go look at the fish again. There's 30% more you didn't see. Put it in the drawing. The nuances of colors and the way the shade. And he made him do that about 6 times. Every time they saw more because they were more present to it. But it opened up the awareness, the ability to really be present as opposed to just get something done, which is what so many of us do in our lives. So I don't have a lot of regrets in life. One of them is I don't live next door to you. I would probably come over and have tea every day because you're so
I would love it. Anytime you're local.
Okay. Um, but, tell us a little bit about maybe what you might call your core beliefs and what experiences have shaped those.
Sure. I think the experiences told me what my core beliefs are. We all have experiences that are shocking at times, I believe. So when I was molested at 10 by my teacher, and janitor saw the door locked, came in, and I ran, and I was mute, and my family didn't do anything. That was trauma, yes. However, what came of that was a seed that kept sprouting all over the place later. I turned around and thought the most important part of that experience is, oh, he's not good for anybody. I better tell everybody and warn them. And so I did. And I asked every student in my class to tell every other student in the whole school so nobody would ever be alone with him. And that's when it was the first time I can remember that I felt so good about me, right? I liked that. And I thought, oh, God, I'm not the painfully shy nutcase that can't talk. I couldn't talk anywhere. I would go mute easily. I would hide. And so that was the big turning point for me. And then I worked at Maimonides in Brooklyn, an isolation nursery. I wore a body brace so I couldn't lift people. So I worked nursery. And I was at lunch, and there was two nurses talking about a doctor who killed the baby during delivery, strangled the cord instead of releasing it properly. Baby died. And they named the doctor. And I said, what nurse told you this? And they zipped it up fast. That was it. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and I get a new infant with a cardiac problem. And the doctor is that doctor. And the chart, she doesn't come in, the female doctor. And I read it. And digoxin 25 milligrams, Jack, if we even took one little piece of that, we'd be dead, let alone an infant. So I called her and I said, I need you to come in and read and sign off. I didn't tell her what, because I knew what she had done already. I didn't trust her. So she walks in, she signs it, screams at me, walks out. I call my supervisor. I said, get in here right now. I have to go to the bathroom fast. I was all alone. So she comes in, and I had the chart with me. I had the original order. I put it in my bra. I come to a copy machine, copy it, put the copy in my bra, and take the original back. And I said, now call the supervisor, after I showed her. And she was in shock. And the chief of pediatrics comes in with his entourage, and he goes, I'll go have a talk with her. I said, nope, that won't do. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I got a copy of the order. And if I go to the press in 24 hours, you're all in trouble. So you better do something. And I want to hear it tomorrow morning. And so it turned out she had no medical license. Let me tell you, I sit there and I feel terrible for the baby who died, but I also know there'd be a lot more if I didn't step in that way. And that told me something about my core beliefs, that I will sacrifice my work, which I've done. I've left work when I see that they don't care. I can't do that. And I really enjoyed that part of me. I never knew that part until that happened. So as you point out, and everyone else, when we look at ourselves, the hardest moments in life can turn out to be the biggest growth in life, and really tap into, who am I given the circumstance? What's my response, not my reaction?
Yeah, I've come to believe that the universe is always happening for us, not to us, that every negative event has a seed of a equal benefit, greater benefit. Like, we develop a quality like you did. We develop new strengths. There are things that teach us lessons we need to learn and so forth. So I totally get it. I have a question for you.
Sure.
You've been involved with murders and violence and rape and robberies and missing people and missing pets and all those things, which, are horrific at some level, or at least cause most people to have horrific responses to them. How do you live with everything you've seen?
I pour more love into the world. I love the families of the victims. I am best friends with most of them that I can be. Those who pull away from everybody, I just pray for. I just send them love and light and think of them. And the victims, I think it's everybody's job to love all of them. If they're here or they're on the other side, doesn't matter. We're all souls. So I'm quite comfortable knowing from the very first caves, when somebody's cave got earthquaked and he picks up his club or his stone, he goes, I want that cave. I always think, well, it's been going on a very long time. Right.
Right.
And so how we all live with it. And I'm comfortable knowing it's crazy here. Sure. But it's also wonderful. Mm-hmm. It's also filled with incredible people and incredible animals. And every time I see, anything where other species, it's why I love to watch them. Other species seem not to go through the same conflicts we go through about loving anybody, adopting any other species. I had a possum come to the door every day with 4 raccoon babies, and the mother raccoon would watch them and insist they never touch needle nose. And he ate with them and they were afraid of him, but he was her baby. And I thought, that's how life should be. Yeah. So I sleep well over it.
That's good. Well, I know somewhere along the line, I learned about the yin and the yang, the darkness and the light, and it takes both to exist at the same time. And we can choose what we want to focus on, but the others are going to be there, the other side. Wow. As I said, I'd love to talk to you all day, really for weeks at a time. But we have limited time here. So I want to really encourage people to get a hold of your book. You have another book about animals. Why don't you mention both titles really quickly?
Sure. The Life of a Psychic Detective and All Nature Speaks, Conversations with Pets and Wildlife.
Yeah, both wonderful books. I love the stories in them. I love the lessons in them, the awareness. I just feel better when I read them, so that you're transmitting this love through the book. It's an uplifting experience. Where can people get the books, and how can they get in touch with you if they'd like to?
NancyOrlandWeber.com is my name, and that's my website. Assigned book copies are there. Amazon has them, and that's about it right now. And
that's plenty. That's exactly what people need. So I know you're available to work with people, and I encourage people to reach out to you, and definitely get both of our books. They're phenomenal. They're just really wonderful reads. I'm going to Mexico in a few days after this interview, and both of the books are in my briefcase to read. I want to reread them again, and I want my wife to read them and so forth. So again, thanks for joining us today, Nancy. You're a treasure. I really appreciate it.
Jack, thank you so much. It is such an honor. I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you. And all of you watching, thank you for joining us today as well. And make sure to tune again next week when I'll have another guest whose insights, whose experiences, and their wisdom can help you live a happier, more fulfilling, and more enjoyable life. Till then, take care.